Hello and welcome, this is Mr. Siege. Now today we're going to be testing those epic commanders again, but in a more of a Season of Conquest situation. We're going to be using T5 troops and no gear, no armaments at all at the moment. Obviously we'll have to do some more testing with that. We need to do some more testing when John and Stephen come into the game also. But in this test, I want to see if the epic commanders could be usable in Season of Conquest. Now, I imagine they will be, and I would like to use them, especially because of Catherine's debuff and Narsus, and also Catherine buffs your other commanders, which is important. Now, this video is very long because I've done a lot of testing. It's been 2 hours of AOO fighting, and I'm going to keep this to a complete minimum in editing, so if I make some mistakes, just bear with me. It's just going to have to stay like that. So first of all, we're going to do like a control test. So we're going to test out the best siege march on the game right now, which is really Garjamada and Cordoba. There's kind of no doubt about it, really. Now, Margaret and Cordoba work really well, and you'll see this later in the video as well. But in these tests, we're going to have 3 marches out on the field. If one dies, it's going to get replenished. The fight's going to last for 3 minutes. Every single fight. It's exactly the same test each time. And at the end of the test, we need to see how many troops are remaining, because that's a big deal. You want to stay on the field as long as possible. And you want that march to have a lot of survivability. And also we need to see how much damage that march does to the enemy, the severely wounded troops it causes. So I need to compare all the results to the best result it's going to be in the game right now, which will be this one. That's, without a doubt. Now, there's going to be a few twists at the end here. We're actually going to test Caesar as well, because I believe Caesar could have actually a decent impact. Now, is Caesar with his museum relic better than an epic commander? That's the question I am trying to answer as well towards the end of this video. So like I say, we do loads and loads of tests. Now, Big Ange, thank you very much for helping me today. As you can see, 15k to 115k, 767% trade, which is great. It's what you'd really want in SOC, and you can get that in the right scenarios. So you did see I'm targeting Liang in these tests, and I'll be doing that all the time, same target each time. Having trouble putting a hidden sentry out, it doesn't work. I don't know the reasoning for it, I don't know how you work them, but there you go. So yeah, thank you for Big Ange for helping me out with this testing. He spent 2 hours of his time too, just doing the initial testing, which is a crazy amount of time for him to take out his day, so I appreciate that so much. So yeah, big thanks to him. Now, next we're going to try just the epic commanders on their own. So this will give us a baseline of how, probably the worst possibility of a march we can get. Now we're going to try Narsus primary first, and then we're going to switch it over and try Catherine as secondary. So as you can see, we've still got 3 marches out. We don't need 3 marches out exactly because there's no AoE here. Okay, we're not going to be hitting other marches, but we're going to run this 3 minutes hitting that single target, and if Liang dies, I can then switch over. Liang didn't quite die, very close in that situation. So we're going to get ready and send out Catherine and Narsus next to prepare for the next test. Obviously we're limited on time. I want to try and get this all fitted in to one video with speeding up as quick as possible. So 220% KP ratio, 28,000 severes on their side, 167,000 units remaining, 167,000 units remaining. I'll try that again. So how will Catherine compare? Now, from the test I did yesterday, which was more of a KVK testing scenario, Catherine did more damage, so you'll be able to see that in this potentially as well. But Narsus had more troops remaining. He had longer survivability on the field, and that could play a big part. But you've got to sort of nail it down to, would you prefer more damage over a short period of time, or would you prefer to survive? And that, I guess, will be down to the scenario you are fighting in. If it's an altar battle, you may want to last a bit longer, be on the field for longer. But if you're in sort of a pass situation where people are just popping out the pass, you may just need to do like short spurts, and your city might be close, so you can just pop backwards and forwards. So with Catherine primary, we're going to see the report in a minute. Let's just get those next troops already set up. Now this time we're going to use Narsus and Babur. Now I think this could be such a tanky march. Babur's health is massive, and okay, so let's compare these two. 256%, and as expected, there's less units remaining, 155k, but nearly 30k troops damaged there, severely wounded. But Narsus had 167,000 remaining, with 12k more remaining. And like I say, that could be very, very useful in longer fights, staying on the field a bit longer. You know, you're not going to have to refresh quite as often. So, like I say, now Narsus primary, Babur secondary. I think this could be a very strong march. Now, first of all, we're trading about 2 to 1 against meta marches here. We've got Lianga Herman, which is arguably one of the best marches in the game. We've got Scipio Luce, and there's Nevsky Joan, I believe. But we barely touched Nevsky Joan most of the time. Now, we did get onto the Scipio that time. We did hit the Scipio a couple of times. So this is looking better already. We didn't get a chance before. We didn't kill the Liang before. Obviously, prepare for the next march. We're going to have Catherine with Babur, so switch them round again. Now, this should do a lot more damage, in theory. Right, 434% KP ratio for Narsus and Babur. That is really strong, and 196k remaining troops as well. 12k to 54k, I think's a pretty good result. If you're getting that sort of trade in Season of Conquest, I think you're going to be pretty happy with that. So that is looking very, very positive. But how Catherine and Babur perform now, there's a lot less heal here, because Narsus' heal is very, very strong, as we deducted from the last test we did. So we've also started hitting Scipio this time. She's hit the orange zone, okay? The health has hit orange, so that isn't looking great. And yeah, 10k to 50k. The KP ratio is better, but compared to the 196k remaining, it's, you know, it's way better than the epic results just on their own, obviously. But 196k remaining troops there on the Narsus Babur. But on the Catherine march, 140k. That's 50k troops, 56k troops less remaining. That Narsus and Babur is going to last so much longer on the field. But the question is, if you're going to run Narsus and Babur, what then are you going to run your Catherine with if you're still going to use Catherine on the field? Now, a lot of people don't have Babur either, so that could be a problem. If you've invested in Babur, you're probably going to be quite happy right now, because to be honest with you, that is a fantastic result. And you've got the heal that Babur doesn't have. Healing Babur is such a big bonus, keeping him on the field, because he does a lot of damage, you know. He's actually very, very strong and way underrated. All the other content creators think he is not very good, and that is not the case. So this time we're going to run Babur as a primary and compare results to when he was a secondary. Just showing you what tree Catherine had on. So we've almost maximised the skill tree. We've took Rejuvenate, Latent Power, and Naked Rage, and I've sort of put these talents here is what you'd probably have on the field. You want that march speed over there, Cornered Fox, 20% more counterattack damage of all types, that's including ranged counterattack. That is quite a biggie. Okay, that's very, very useful. Dealing more counterattack at range is very strong. So as you can see, we've got onto Scipio rather quick this time, doing a lot of damage, but Babur is in the orange zone, and at this point hard to tell if that's better than when Catherine was primary. But it's interesting because I'd like to see if that skill tree is better than the attack tree with a skill damage commander like Babur. Obviously, we didn't test that yesterday. 408%. Okay, so not as good. 56,000 severes to the enemy compared to 50. Okay, there's more severely wounded, but 138k remaining, 140k remaining. The severely wounded is a bit more when Babur's primary, but he does more damage. Either way, I don't like that march. I just don't think it's that strong. It's doing a lot of damage, but you know, it's got no tankiness. You've lost a lot of tankiness there, not having that heal. So this time we've got Babur as primary and Narsus as secondary. Again, I just think this pairing is very, very strong. And as you can see, the survivability is great. Done quite a bit of damage to Scipio as well there this time. So let's get prepared for our next march. And we're actually going to try the normal march of Margaret and Babur. Now this was the first march, engineering march in the game. And it's really, really not a bad march. Way underrated. It does a fantastic job on the field. And you'll see that from these results. But this is to give you an idea, if we ran those two legendary commanders together, how they compare to running them with the epics separately. 14k to 61k there, and 12k to 54k. So Babur could be the better primary there, which kind of makes sense because Babur is a better primary with Gauge Armada, and Gauge Armada's got the same talent tree, the defense tree. So here is a Margaret and Babur situation, two legendary maxed commanders. How does that fare up in comparison to the two epics? Now, one thing I do want to point out is the health of Margaret is going a lot lower than what Babur and Narsus was, because Margaret's heal is nowhere near as good as Narsus' heal, and that makes him super, super strong. We did do more damage to Scipio, as you can see there. He's gone into the red. We haven't managed that before. 581%, 87k severely wounded. It is quite a bit better. You got 1.2 million kill points on this when we're running with Narsus. But we do have quite a few troops remaining. When we had Narsus primary, 196k remaining, 197k almost, is absolutely crazy. I think Narsus primary could be the play, because you just want those troops remaining. I think you can just last so much longer. 1.7 mil KP with Margaret Babur though. But honestly, is it massively different? You know, I'm not quite sure. But in comparison, I think, to the two legendary commanders they put together, the single target damage skill commanders, I think Narsus Babur is actually not a bad choice. It's fairly strong. And if you still want to run Margaret with Cordoba, as we know, is just absolutely out of this world, or if you've got Garja and you want to run Garja with Cordoba, then you still can. You can pair Babur with Narsus, or Narsus with Babur, and you're going to get great results. So now we're going to try Margaret paired with these epic commanders. Obviously we've got Narsus secondary for this test. Now the healing doesn't look as great as Babur initially, which you'd think with that double heal of Margaret and Narsus it would do. But my concern here is the damage, because I know that Margaret and Gauge Armada don't do enough damage, not at all. And this is a similar kind of pairing, although obviously they are both skill damage commanders, so it could be better. And let's send out Narsus Margaret just to set up, just to get there in place. Again, we haven't got long left on this this timer now. Okay, 16k is quite high, to be honest with you, severely wounded, to 52k. Okay, a decent amount of damage, 169k remaining, but compared, 173k remaining. The Babur Narsus march, or Narsus Babur, I think is stronger. And I love the amount of troops that are remaining on the Narsus Babur. So could Narsus and Margaret work? Now it's time to find out. So during this test, we were doing some other testing that Big Ange wanted to do, and that was to see if pairing an epic commander with Cordoba is better than 5111 Margaret. And at the end of this video, or towards the end of this video, we do actually test this theory. So obviously stick around and we'll check that out. So let's speed through this again. It's about 8 times the speed. We've had 6 commanders going to be released this year, and that's absolutely crazy. So thanks for that. Obviously still disappointed in Mayan. Okay, Lilith, you messed up with that. That should have been a siege civilization. But let's just stop there, stop at that. Now, we've got Margaret and someone else out. So Margaret Narsus, 15k. You know, there's not much difference in that one. It isn't great. Margaret and Narsus just doesn't seem to be working, certainly not as well as it should be. So let's see how this one works out. And it's not looking great. So Margaret Catherine's not looking very good either at the moment. Like, that health was way too low. In 3 minutes, the health bar really shouldn't go that low. Gonna get ready for Catherine Margaret. So the question is now, I'm asking myself, if you're going to pair Narsus with Babur, who are you going to pair with Margaret? Okay. So, yeah, Margaret Catherine, 129k remaining, 52k, obviously we've done severely wounded there. But it's not great. I'm not happy with that. I don't think that's enough troops remaining. It's not doing a great deal. You know, the Narsus is probably slightly better with the troops remaining, but compared to the Narsus Babur, which I think is really going to be the better march here out of the two, it's not looking good for Margaret, to be honest with you. So let's see how Catherine and Margaret do. Obviously we've got the skill tree. Maybe that's going to be the changing factor with this report. So it really wasn't. 14k to 42k, and yeah, it's not great at all. 123k remaining. It's significantly worse. You know, you got 10k less severely wounded to the enemy, and your kill points. Yeah, your kill points are a lot less as well. You know, you're not even got 300% KP ratio quite there. That was the end of that AOO session. Now I have to go and do another one because I've not finished my tests. I've got to run these epic commanders with some AOO commanders. But first of all, my thoughts were, if Catherine doesn't work with Margaret, maybe she could work with Gauge Armada somehow. I have no idea how that could work, but surely it's potentially an option. So if Catherine was to work with Gauge Armada, then I could still run Margaret with Cordoba. And as we know, Margaret with Cordoba is absolutely amazing. So here we go. Here's the Garja and Catherine march. Now I'm really intrigued about this because Garja's got a really decent heal and he's very tanky with his health. And it's already initially looking very solid. I just don't want marches to die that fast, especially buffing marches like Catherine, because I want her on the field and I want her to support my other towers that are going to be nearby. This is looking a lot better. 416 KP ratio, 1.16 KP, and compared to the Margaret march, it's a lot better. You're nearly 100% KP ratio better off here, and you've got more troops remaining also. So now we're going to get Cordoba involved. Obviously we're going to be doing AoE now. Again, we tried this yesterday, but we didn't try it with T5, and we didn't try it against meta marches, meta SOC marches, seasonal conquest marches, guys. So how will they perform paired with Cordoba? Now the problem with pairing them with Cordoba is there's basically no synergy. Cordoba is a smite commander and these are skill commanders. Okay, but we should do a bit more damage because of the AoE. At least that's what you'd think. It's looking very strong. Okay, it looks like we've done a lot of damage. Look at the Nevsky there. He's on orange, as well as Scipio. So when we come and look in the report of Gonzalo and Narsus, we can see that he's done 69k severely wounded to my 15.6k, 168,000 remaining, 1.4 mil KP over 3 minutes, and that is very good. Okay, that's a very good result. Now, compared to the others so far, that is the best report. That is the best report so far. 68k, 70k. It's almost as good as Margaret and Babur, to be honest with you. 1.7 mil KP. 1.4 mil KP. We're not a long way off, and that's with an epic commander with obviously Cordoba. It just shows how strong Cordoba is. So now let's go and test Narsus and Cordoba. So I'm expecting more units remaining, but I don't think it's going to do the same amount of damage, or not quite the same amount of damage. So let's blast through this one, and then we've got another report to compare. So obviously so far Cordoba is looking like the best option to be paired with one of the epic commanders, which is bound to be, of course. So with Narsus as primary, we've done 57k severely wounded. We've only took 14k, which is a little bit less than the 15.6k. Now look before, 168k remaining, but 68k severely wounded. And on this one we've got 191k remaining, but 57k severely wounded. So it's definitely doing more damage as Cordoba as a primary, which I guess was expected. 1.1 million kill points there, but we've got 1.4 almost here. Now it's just whether you'd prefer more units remaining. Again, would you prefer to last longer in the field, or would you prefer to just do more damage, I guess, over a short period of time? I think I'd still be happy with 409% KP ratio over 440 and still have a lot more time on the field. At least that's what it seems like. But I think either way you could run them either way around and you're still going to get a good result. So next up we're going to run Cordoba and Catherine, of course. Now I'm expecting it to probably do more damage, to be honest with you, but you've got no heal there, and that does make a big difference. The heal is important. That's why Gorge Armada goes well with Cordoba, as well as why Margaret goes well with Cordoba, because that little bit of heal really adds up. So again, let's speed through this one. As you can see, Cordoba's health is kind of diminishing a little bit here, which isn't great. Like, this is a 3-minute test. I'm saying again, you don't want to be losing health like that as quickly. So we've got the 428 KP ratio, 1.4 mil KP, which is very, very good, because that's 69k severely wounded, but 137k remaining, and I'd much rather have 168k remaining, and even more so 191k remaining, but still doing a decent amount of damage. So I don't think Catherine's really the answer. I think Narsus's results are a lot better, but you still want Catherine on the field if possible, because of the 15% all damage debuff, and obviously you're buffing your other troops. So this is something to bear in mind, which is why we're just testing with every single commander to see the possibilities. Now, if you currently had Gorge Armada and Cordoba, is it worth splitting those pairs up? Is it worth running Gorge Armada and Catherine, because that's quite strong? And is it worth running Narsus with Cordoba? Now, if we're thinking about it, we've got 70,000 severely wounded there, and around 60,000 there. So that's making about 130,000 severely wounded units in 3 minutes. But we'll go back onto the original result. So with Gorge or Cordoba, 15k severely wounded ourselves, which is half as much as the two combined, and almost as good, to be honest with you, this severely wounded units given out. But the only thing that's changing really is Catherine is going to buff your marches, and you could be getting a better result with the other commander when you're hitting the same march because of the debuff. So that is something that we do need to test out in another video, which obviously we haven't had a chance to look at in this one. We've done 2 AOO sessions already, and we've had some good results. Okay, it's looking very, very promising. Obviously, I'm kind of leaving it for you guys to work out the rest. So you've seen the results with Cordoba paired with the epic commanders, and yeah, they seem okay. They seem okay. But now, how does a 5-1-1-1 Margaret compare to an epic commander? Now, Margaret's first skill is the best thing about her when paired with Cordoba, because she buffs his AoE by 50%, which is absolutely massive. But is this enough as 5-1-1-1 to be better than what we've just seen? Well, let's test it, because I reset Margaret and took her back to 5-1-1-1. Now, the good thing about this, the AoE absolutely pops off, but you haven't got any heal. Okay, you got no heal because you only get that on her expertise. But look at the damage you're doing to these marches. Okay, time to check out the result. 532%. So we've got 14k, 15k to 80,000. So 80,000 sevs is what the enemy took, which is wild. Compared to, obviously, Catherine Cordoba, not as good, 55k. Yeah, Catherine Cordoba there. There's a bit of a bug. Let's just sort the bug out a minute. Okay, Cordoba and Catherine, 70k. Okay, 70k severes, which wasn't too bad. But compared to this at 80k, you've got less units remaining though. That's the issue. Can't upgrade her again now either. I was going to do it to 5-5-1-1 to see the difference as well, but that's impossible. So we've got 20 minutes left. And as you may know, in previous videos, I've been doing some experimenting with Julius Caesar because of his 20% all damage and his unit capacity. This allows me to have 240k units starting off, and the 20% all damage will buff, obviously, all the skills, all the normal range damage, the smite damage, everything that Guardian Armada does gets boosted by 20% because of Julius Caesar. But how will this reflect in a report compared to epic commanders? Because you can get your hands on Julius Caesar quite easily. And honestly, the report isn't bad. 15k to 61k, 400% KP ratio, I don't think it's bad at all. But how does that compare when we got Cordoba doing AoE with Caesar? 20% all damage. Now, I did say I've got a lot of interest in Philip. Philip does more all damage, and he also allows the primary commander to have a 20% chance of recasting the active skill, and that could be phenomenal. So this is Garja paired with an epic commander, 58,000 severely wounded, 61,000 on here. We did take a bit more severely wounded troops, but again, we've started off with a lot more troops as well. Now, having a lot more troops on the field is fantastic, but if someone comes to swarm you, there's a lot more that can end up in the hospital. So we noticed Babur was so good with an epic commander like Narsus. That was probably one of the best results so far. So I actually had tried Babur with Caesar on the field, and it had quite a bit of success. So we've also got Babur and epic commander results, so let's try Babur with Caesar as well after we finish this Cordoba test, because we did 61k severely wounded there with Narsus. So yeah, let's blast through this one and check out the results. Now, we can see the survivability isn't great, but the AoE is doing a ton of damage. Anyone can do this with Caesar. They can go to the museum and get the museum buff. All you need to do is max your Cordoba. So let's check out the result. 18k, nearly 90k, 19k, but we did 81k severely wounded, which is massive. 61k there for Guardian Armada. Now, 1.6 mil KP with a gold key commander that nobody uses, 433% KP ratio, 435%, should I say, is pretty amazing. Obviously, it's nowhere near compared to obviously running Guardian Armada and Cordoba, but it is an option. You know, it's free. People have maxed Caesar with gold keys, and they could use them in the field with Cordoba. You could just max one commander and get very, very good results, potentially. Now, it's not going to have the survivability, like I've said, but it could be decent. So we're going to try Babur as well with Caesar, because I've ran this and it was kind of successful. I did have some good results in the field, in Caesar Conquest, in KVK, and I was getting positive trades, very, very positive trades. So again, let's blast through this. Remember, this is 3 minutes of fighting, guys. 81,000 troops in the hospital for them. Okay, you're going to have, this is like equal gear testing imaginable. Okay, now we will have to do this test with gear, and that should make a huge difference. Well, you'd think so. So we'll do some more tests very, very soon. There's lots and lots of testing to do now. So many more commanders going into the game. I'm trying to get these epic ones done first, and then we can look at Stephen and John, which I'm really excited about. So that's your time up, Babur. Let's go and check out the results. Okay, 16k to 63k, or 64k almost. It's not as good as obviously when we were doing it with Cordoba, but that's mainly because of the AoE. But is it better than when we ran it with an epic commander? When we ran Babur with an epic commander like Narsus, which was very good, 14k to 61k, that's 1.2 million KP, 173. Oh, this is Narsus. When Narsus was primary, there's a lot of troops remaining though. That was very strong. Yeah, 173k remaining, 61k severely wounded compared to 63 or 64k. The Caesar actually did more damage, but you are going to take more severely wounded units. Obviously, we started with 240k, so there's more troops there that can end up in your hospital. And if you get swarmed down, then it could be a disaster. Now, I was thinking this, you know, what if you did get swarmed down, or what if that march came to attack you? So I said to Big Ange, look, I'll throw that out again, but first of all, I'll throw it out with an epic commander. We'll just quickly get it tested. So how does Babur paired with Narsus fare up in like a 1v1 situation against this Zhuge Liang Herman that we've tested out? So if that Zhuge Liang come to attack me, you know, what sort of result am I going to get? And would that be better with Caesar or not? So this was kind of surprising. It wasn't as bad as I initially thought. I thought we'd get completely wrecked. Now, obviously it loses because we've got a legendary and an epic commander against two of the best commanders in the game right now, Zhuge and Herman. Now, obviously we know that Babur and Guardian Armada would beat it, but, you know, Narsus, no chance. 55%. And honestly, that isn't that bad. 55% KP ratio on a march that's just come straight over and attacked me close up. You know, that isn't bad at all with an epic KVK2 commander. If you run an epic KVK2 commander on the field right now with another legendary commander, you're probably going to get wrecked. So this is Babur's Caesar. It's looking a little bit better, but we started with 240k troops. So are we going to get more in the hospital? Okay, I've ended up with 32k in the hospital to their 21. And before it was, well, we got a 67% KP ratio, 29. You know what? It wasn't that bad. It's quite similar, but yeah, it wasn't horrendous. Now, I just want to do one more test. We're going to run Babur with Caesar again, as you can see, and we're going to start at range. We're going to start firing at range. Obviously, you've probably got your rage generated. Your rage is going a bit faster then. Once you've done one skill cycle, the rage starts to boost and really go a lot faster, generally. So we've got one hit off already, and I was just interested to see the difference. Remember, this is Babur and Julius Caesar against Zhuge Herman, one of the top marches in the game. Again, it's losing, but it's a lot closer. But we did start off with a lot more troops. So this time, 32k to 24k. Very similar results, to be honest. Obviously, Caesar gives a lot more troop capacity. Babur gives a bit of troop capacity with the engineering tree. So there you have it, guys. Now, all in all, I think the epic commanders really aren't that bad. They're not too far off what sort of Margaret and Babur standards are when you're pairing them together. Now, Narsus and Babur work well together, and Garja and Catherine seem to work very well together. So those are some options. Now, take what you will from this video. I hope you can take something away from it, that you may be getting 300, 400% KP ratio when running an epic commander in a KVK like Season of Conquest, which is kind of wild. Now, more testing is required when Stephen and John drop in the game, and I will be doing that for you. So I hope you enjoyed. Hope you can take some stuff away from this. And this is me, Mr. Siege. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers, guys, and bye-bye.